What I want to do now is to talk about this dichotomizing that the ulama came up with when looking at the different kinds of ulum. Eventually, as we'll see, they divided knowledges into many hundreds of types. But the two fundamental types, which certainly appear in Ghazali's differentiation, are knowledges that sustain the soul and knowledges that sustain the body. And we saw that the former has only one source, namely revelation, and the second can have material sources, sensory sources. Now, this second category, the sustenance of the body, these are the practical material sciences. Nowadays, what goes by the name of ulum. These are acquired through methods of research, experimentation, empirical observation of the dunya. So the first is, as it were, from the top down. It's quite superior. And the second is from the bottom up. You deduce the abstractions of this science by looking at the differentiations of the world. But the science of the soul comes from above. The ulama also say that the first is a fard ayn and the second is a fard kifaya. In other words, it's an obligation on every believer to know, to be educated about the state of the soul, because it is upon that our salvation depends. But it is not a fard ayn, or an obligation upon every believer to know about medicine or engineering or computer programming or whatever it might be. These can still be useful sciences, but it's not incumbent religiously upon every Muslim to master them. There's also a distinction that you'll find in the work of Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, where he identifies three different kinds of knowledge. Not two different kinds, which is more of an Ash'ari dichotomy, but the Maturidis typically identify three types of knowledge. Firstly, there is knowledge through sense perception, ayan. I know that the moon is shining because my sense of sight tells me that. That's a form of knowledge. Another is inductive knowledge from reasoning, what is known as nazar, through processes of logical induction from first principles. And the science of logic, or mantiq, very highly developed in classical Islam, one of the essential ulum. And the third type in this Maturidi classification is reports from revelation, which they call akhbar. Now, picking up these distinctions and running with them, the classical ulama developed a number of different ways of subdividing the ulum. And these subcategories formed the basis for the curricula that were followed in classical Muslim madrasas. Sometimes you will find that the category of empirical knowledge is subdivided into three different ulum, all of which are regarded as useful sciences: mathematics, physics, and metaphysics. But generally, in later Islamic civilization, we find that the term used, or the differentiation uses the terms ulum aqliya and ulum naqliya. This comes into being around the 5th or the 6th Islamic century, and it continues to the present day. Most of the ulama legitimize this terminology. The naqliya sciences are the sciences of revelation. Naql means transmission, that which has been handed down to us from an infallible prophet. So, a classical differentiation that you will find in, say, the madrasas of Mughal India and in the Ottoman Empire is to list 9 ulum under the ulum naqliya. First of all, the sciences of Quran, particularly memorization and recitation, the qira'ah and hifz. generally the first topic to be dealt with by small children. Secondly, the meaning of the Quran, the interpretation, the tafsir. That's number 2. Number 3 is hadith and its sciences. Number 4 is fiqh. Number 5 is ilm al-kalam. Number 6 is nahu and sarf, Arabic grammar and morphology. Number 7, other linguistic sciences, prosody and rhetoric. Number 8, literature, adab, very important in the cultivation of the well-rounded Islamic personality. And number 9, Sufism. That's certainly for the Ottomans the basic way in which they subdivided the ulum naqliya. Under the ulum aqliya, we find in the Ottoman Empire and for the Mughals, and also for lesser Islamic polities such as the Uzbek Khanate. Number 1 under the aqliya sciences was philosophy or falsafa. Number 2, geometry. Number 3, astronomy. Number 4, medicine, which included as subcategories botany and biology. Number 5, chemistry. 6 was mathematics. Number 7 was physics. Now that differentiation has no revealed justification, but it was a subdivision that was found useful by the ulama of the later Islamic period, and in those parts of the Islamic world where some semblance of a traditional Islamic education is still available, that's as likely as not the kind of curriculum that you will encounter.